Oh, hello everyone. Recently, I watched the Minecraft movie. Also recently, I watched Game Theory's theory about the entire Minecraft timeline, and let's just say that I had a few problems with it. Now, before we start the video, I know exactly what you're thinking. Wait a second, why is the animations guy doing a Minecraft theory video? This isn't what I subscribed for, but trust me, this is worth watching. Trust me, just trust me. Well, first things first, Minecraft is one of my favorite games, and I really like theorizing about its lore. And because of this, I decided to watch MatPat's theory, or Game Theory's theory on the Minecraft lore. And, I didn't entirely believe it. I feel like it's a little outdated. I mean, I believed most of it, but there were a few parts that I felt like they just weren't true at all. Like, for example, he said that the ancient builders ended up becoming the Endermen. However, I feel like this doesn't make sense and has been disproven after the release of the Minecraft Legends game, and I'll explain why later. Because of this, I have constructed my own theory about Minecraft's timeline. Well, that's all I have to say for the intro. Let's get straight into the video. Real quick before we get into this section, where do you think the beginning of the Minecraft timeline is? Take a guess. If you said Minecraft Legends, then you're kind of right, but not entirely, because we need to settle a few things before we can get to that part. The Minecraft timeline actually starts with foresight, knowledge, and action creating the Minecraft world. And not only did they create the overworld, but they also created the Nether and the End. Now, if you look at the picture behind me, the Nether looks like how it does in modern day. However, it actually used to look kind of like the overworld until the Piglin brutes mined that realm to oblivion. Anyway, after foresight, action, and knowledge created the overworld, everything was completely peaceful. Everything. Nobody wanted to fight each other. Everything was, like I said just a second ago, completely peaceful. Meanwhile, in the end, there is a fourth species of Enderling that actually went extinct prior to the events of Minecraft Dungeons, and I'll explain what happened to them later and why they went extinct. But right now, they seem to be making something. What could they be making? I wonder. Let's see. Oh my gosh. This is the Heart of Ender, and basically it's pure evil. I'm not entirely sure why it's pure evil. Maybe it was just accidentally made pure evil, or maybe the Enderlings that created it were evil and they made it evil. But as of right now, I'm not entirely sure. What I do want to talk about, however, is why I think it was made by a fourth species of Enderling, and I didn't just say it was created by the Enderman or something. It would make sense for the Enderlings that created the Heart of Ender to kind of resemble the Heart of Ender. However, if you look at the image that I displayed on the screen, you'll notice that the eyes of the Heart of Ender and the Enderman are different. Furthermore, since I realized that it would make sense for the Enderman to have not created the Heart of Ender, I started thinking about mobs that kinda looked like the Heart of Ender. However, none of the Enderlings resembled the Heart of Ender hardly at all. So, I looked at other mobs, and I found a mob that kinda reminds me of an Enderman, and I think that it was the thing that created the Heart of Ender. But I'll discuss what that thing is later in the video. One more thing that I would like to discuss is why I think that it was created rather than a thing that's just been here since the dawn of time. Well, first of all, it's contained within an orb, which is kind of weird considering that it's its own living being. So, unless it was created with the orb, it kind of doesn't really make that much sense. And second, there actually wasn't a second one. I thought there was a second one, but there actually wasn't. I just said first of all for no reason. One final thing I want to discuss is why I believe that the ancient builders did not become the Endermen. According to Matt Pat's theory, he claimed that the end portal was one way, which makes sense at first until you realize a few things that don't quite add up. First of all, if you look at the design of the end portal, you'll notice that it looks a lot like Endstone. However, if the ancient builders made the end portal and it was only one way, then how did they know what the end dimension looked like? Furthermore, take a look at this quick clip from Minecraft Dungeons. I apologize for the low quality, but after seeing that clip, you have to admit that the end portal is not one way because you can see Enderman going in and out of the portal. This likely means that instead of the ancient builders going to the end, rather the Enderman went to the overworld first, and I'll explain why they did that later in the video. Anyway, now that the Enderlings have created the Heart of Ender, all the Enderlings and the Endermen and the Endersons, they pretty much worship this thing like a god. They build large towering cities, and they use floating boats to kill dragons and hang up their heads as trophies, all to impress the Heart of Ender. However, the Heart of Ender is not impressed by this. As I mentioned before, this guy is pure evil, and he wants to do something much, much bigger. He wants to take over other dimensions. He gathers all the Enderlings that helped create him, and maybe a few other Enderlings too. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, he tells them to help him make a portal to another dimension. However, when they create the portal and open it, things don't go exactly according to plan. The Heart of Ender is accidentally dropped into the portal, and the portal closes before another Enderman can go retrieve it. After the Heart of Ender falls through the portal, it's not entirely sure where it's going to end up. However, after a while, it finally falls out the other side. The Nether. The Orb of Dominance landed in the unlucky lands of the Nether. Almost immediately upon arrival, it is picked up by the Piglin Witch known as the Seer. The seer doesn't know what the Orb of Dominance is, but then the orb starts talking to her. The orb tells her that it can help her with anything, like, for example, finding more gold. So the seer picks up the orb and takes it with her. The seer shows the Orb of Dominance to the Piglin leader known as the Great Hog. And the Great Hog's totally fine with the Orb of Dominance helping them. However, there's a problem happening with the Piglins right now. You see, the problem is they're running out of gold around the area, so they need a completely different spot to look for more. That's when the Orb of Dominance gets the craziest idea. What was the Orb of Dominance's plan exactly? To take over other dimensions like earlier, of course. This time, he had the entire Piglin army at his command, through the Seer, of course, and he was going to finally take over another dimension like he always wanted to. Well, we all know how that went, don't we? The Piglins were defeated, the portal was destroyed, and the overworld was victorious. How were the Piglins defeated exactly? Foresight, action, and knowledge went to the future, found a player, and took them to the past to help them defeat the piglins and save the overworld. I'm not even kidding. Even though the Orb of Dominance failed in taking over the overworld, it did manage to create an evil group of people that would help it greatly later in the timeline. What I'm talking about are the Illagers, who were created during the events of Minecraft Dungeons. But we're not worried about them right now. Let's see what's going on at the end. So, in case you're wondering what happened to the Endermen after their leader fell through a portal of endless void and ended up who knows where, their society is crumbling. There's also evidence showing that their society began crumbling when their leader disappeared. You see, in the DLC of Minecraft Dungeons, the final level is called Broken Citadel, or however you pronounce it. But basically, that implies that everything began falling apart when their leader disappeared. Knowing that their leader was so important to them, it would make sense to assume that they would try to go after him. So, what the Enderlings did was that they rebuilt the portal to try to find him, and they did manage to reignite the portal. This would start a war between the Piglins and the Enderlings over the Orb of Dominance, and we can actually see some aftermath from this war. The first bit of evidence of this that we can see is that all of the Piglin bastions are destroyed. But this doesn't make any sense because in Minecraft Legends you never go in the Nether to destroy the Piglin bastions. So why would they be destroyed unless something else went there and destroyed them? Also, would you be surprised if I told you that the Enderlings that died in the war are actually still in the Nether? I'll give you a hint. What hates piglins is taller than the player and is dark like an Enderman? I'll give you a few seconds. If you said the Wither skeleton, then you're correct. Now I know it's a bit of a stretch to assume that the Wither skeletons are actually Enderlings, but like I said before, they do share some similarities to the Endermen. They're both tall and dark colored. Also, like I said earlier in the video, they look similar to the Heart of Ender. More similar than the Enderman, anyway. Anyway, let's continue with the story. Not wanting to lose the Heart of Ender a second time, they hid it away somewhere in the mountains where no one would find it. Or so they thought. Somebody would find it eventually, but right now, let's see what's going on back at the overworld. This left the players to have to defend the villages, since the villagers couldn't fight for themselves. However, they couldn't defend every single village, so they created new, larger golems to help them fight. These were the iron golems. Basically, the illagers that were created to help defeat the piglins in Minecraft Legends turned evil. A lot of people think that the Illagers turned evil because they had a new lust for fighting, but that's not entirely the case. You see, the reason that the Illagers turned evil is because they were mad at the villagers that didn't help during the Piglin War. This led them to think that they were better than the villagers, and that the villagers should all perish. They did try to convince the people that helped them in the war to join their side and take down the villagers, but nobody actually agreed to join them. Now I know what you're thinking. Yes, zombie villagers, zombies, and skeletons and creepers are evil in Minecraft. However, they're not evil yet in the timeline, and I'll explain when they turn evil later. With their newfound hatred of the villagers, the illagers began to raid villages. Meanwhile, Foresight, Action, and Knowledge were watching all of this chaos take place, and they were not happy with what the world had become. Yes, I know that they said they were leaving at the end of Minecraft Legends. However, I believe that they were still watching over the world. You see, they actually come back later in the timeline, and I'll explain when later. But anyway, how are they going to react to this problem? They're going to flood the world. You see, in Minecraft, there are these things called ocean monuments, which are made of prismarine. The fountains from Minecraft Legends are also made of prismarine, so there's a chance that they could be the same thing. I know they don't look exactly the same, but Minecraft Legends is a storybook that has been passed down from generation to generation, so the designs of a few things may have got changed a little bit. And to prevent any evil from ever getting to the fountains again, they made guardians out of the prismarine to guard the sunken monuments for all of eternity. There's also evidence suggesting that the Guardians were made to protect the monuments from illagers. For example, in the game, Guardians attack squids, which is weird. Why would Guardians attack squids of all things? Well, if you look at the head shape of a squid and you look at the head shape of an illager, then they're both a rectangular shape, and there's not many mobs in Minecraft that have a rectangular head. So I think that the Guardians mistake the squids for illagers, and that's why they attack squids. Anyway, because of the flood, everybody was forced to move to higher ground and start from scratch. Everybody built new structures, new villages were made, different temples were made, all sorts of stuff that you can find across the overworld in modern Minecraft. Similarly, the Illagers also built their own structures, like pillager outposts and woodland mansions. They would build the pillager outposts close to the villages so they could easily raid the villages and kill off the villagers. Because the Illagers were now attacking the villages, this led everybody else to have to defend the villages all the time. Because they couldn't do that, they began to create golems to help them. These golems were the iron golems. Looking back at the woodland mansions, this is probably where the Illager history gets the most interesting as they start to study dark magic. The Illagers began to do things like capturing innocent overworld mobs and turning them into beasts. But then, they probably did the craziest thing they have done yet. They created zombies and started the zombie apocalypse in Minecraft. Well, yes, there already were zombies, but I'm talking about the main zombies they created. Not the zombie villagers, but the normal zombies. Now, when the Illagers turned evil and the Great Split Up happened, I'm pretty sure that some players also turned evil. Now, here's the thing. One of the things that the players can do, that you can do in Minecraft, is that you have the ability to respawn when you die. However, this is definitely an ability given to the player from Foresight, Action, and Knowledge, the three Minecraft gods. But the reason they gave him this power is because they needed it to save the overworld from the piglins. So when some of the players turned evil, I like to imagine that those evil people were had their ability to respawn taken away. So the Illagers tried experimenting, seeing how they could respawn, and they experimented on the dying players that were on their team. However, this led to the this led to them creating the first zombies and accidentally starting the zombie apocalypse. The zombie apocalypse slowly spread until every single player left had either A, died of old age, B, became a zombie or a skeleton. The Illagers survived because they were definitely working with the zombies and were friends with them, and the villagers survived under the protection of the iron golems. Well, that's a shame. All the players are now gone. They've all become zombies, skeletons, etc. Now what? It's not like another player's just gonna show up out of nowhere.
I am Steve.
Checking back on the piglins, their society is also crumbling. Not because they lost the Orb of Dominance, but because they lost the war to the Enderlings. And now everything's just falling apart. You see, we know their society is crumbling because the hordes, the Horde of the Spore, the Horde of the Hunt, and the Horde of the Bastion that existed in Minecraft Legends simply don't exist anymore. Also, the piglins are a lot smaller than they were in Minecraft Legends, or at least smaller than the max size that they could grow to in Minecraft Legends. Anyway, there's a new piglin leader now, and her name is Malgosha. Now, a lot of people think that Malgosha is the seer from Minecraft Legends, but I don't think this is entirely true. Now, I find it more likely that Malgosha is either the daughter or the granddaughter of the seer, and there is, in fact, some evidence to support that. Well, they might look similar, but that doesn't automatically mean that they're the same person. Like, for example, the height difference between the two characters is actually pretty large. Now, she could have just gotten older and gotten shorter or something, but there's also more evidence to support this theory. We don't actually get to see Malgosha's mother in the movie, but we do get to see Malgosha's father, who is a piglin with a pretty average height. Now, this could explain why Malgosha is a lot shorter than the seer, because they're the daughter of both that normal piglin and the seer. Furthermore, in the movie, when Malgosha finally gets the Orb of Dominance, which isn't the same Orb of Dominance as the one we've been talking about, we'll get to that in a second, she tells the piglin that when they put the orb at the top of the nether portal, it'll create a giant laser beam, which is kind of similar to what happened in Minecraft Legends, but not exactly the same. You see, in Minecraft Legends, the Seer didn't directly use the Orb of Dominance to create the laser. They used the Orb of Dominance to corrupt a beacon, then they used the corrupted beacon to make the laser. What I'm trying to say is that Malgosha is acting not like she was there to witness it, but like she heard about it from someone else, likely the Seer. I mean, it's not like it's actually important to the rest of the theory that Malgosha and the Seer are different people. I just thought I'd bring it up. Now, back to the actual important part of the theory Steve. As a child, he yearned for the mines, and while mining one day, he came across two mysterious artifacts that came from his world. Keep that in mind. And he used those two artifacts to teleport to the Minecraft world. I'm just going to assume you saw the rest of the movie, so you mainly know what happens, so I don't really have to discuss it. There are, in fact, a couple things I would like to discuss. Like, for example, this movie explains that creepers weren't always bad guys, and it also explains the turning point from when creepers turned into bad guys, and it's Steve's fault. In the movie, every time creepers are shown, instead of them running up to Steve or any of the other people and blowing up immediately, they always seem curious and they don't attack or they don't blow up unless provoked, which is pretty interesting. I imagine that when Steve got to the Minecraft world, he just assumed that the creepers were bad guys, like the zombies and skeletons, and so him attacking the creepers led to the creepers growing a hate for the people or the players. This also explains why the creepers attack players, but they don't attack villagers and iron golems. Now, another thing that's pretty interesting is that Steve doesn't seem to have the ability to respawn. Now, he could have just assumed that he was going to die, but I think there's more to it. I think that at this point of time, he actually couldn't respawn. Now, nobody has actually ever seemed to connect these two dots before, but I think it's most likely that the player's ability to respawn comes from the three Minecraft gods foresight, action, and knowledge. I believe after Steve saves the overworld from the piglins in the movie, then Foresight saw him as a hero like the other players that have now gone extinct and all turned into zombies and skeletons, as discussed before. So Foresight gave Steve the ability to respawn and decided to follow Steve around and help him on his adventures. This will be important for later. One other thing I would like to discuss that has annoyed me ever since I started making this theory is that one scene from the Minecraft movie where Steve uses elytra to fly away from the gas. Everybody, and I mean everybody, was complaining, it doesn't make sense. How did Steve get elytra if he didn't go to the nether? You fools. The people at Mojang have brains beyond our comprehension. This actually lines up with everything, and I'll explain to you why. You see, everyone, at this point in the timeline, the Enderman created another portal to the overworld, then created a portal to the Nether to steal back the Orb of Dominance. This end portal has been opened and it has not been closed, as in all the Eyes of Ender are currently in it, meaning that Steve simply just found the portal one day and walked through. Now you're probably wondering, but wouldn't he end up on the main end island? Isn't the elytra on the outer end islands? Well, in Minecraft Dungeons, which takes place right after the Minecraft movie in the timeline, when you go through the end portal, you end up in the Broken Citadel, which is somewhere in the outer end islands. This is because the people at Mojang are geniuses. The top minds in Hollywood couldn't write this stuff. This was 100% intentional. Mojang knew what they were doing. 100% intentional. No doubt about it. The final thing I would like to talk about in this movie is how the Orb of Dominance in the Minecraft movie and the Orb of Dominance with the Heart of Ender in it are not the same Orb of Dominance. The Orb of Dominance in the Minecraft movie is completely different. It's got a different color. And, it does different things. Like it created that laser when the Orb of Dominance actually didn't create the laser. Now this ties back with Malgosha is just like the daughter or granddaughter of the seer in the Minecraft movie. You see, the way it ties back into this is that the at the beginning of the movie, when the orb returns back to the overworlds, when Garrett and his gang show up to the overworld, it's this like giant blue like aura appears above her, and then she's like, the Orb of Dominance has returned. So basically, I don't think this detected the Orb of Dominance directly. I think it just detected a powerful force, and Malgosha just assumed that it was the fabled Orb of Dominance that she heard about all those years ago from the seer. At this point of the timeline, the real Orb of Dominance is still hidden in that cave. I sure do hope nobody finds it. That'd be really bad. Oh my god. Minecraft Dungeons is the climax of the entire Minecraft timeline. Yes, you heard that right. The climax of the entire Minecraft timeline isn't Minecraft, but Minecraft Dungeons. Okay, so I'm gonna have to split this video into two parts because Clipchamp, the editing software I'm using, is switching to Microsoft Sign-In, and I don't have a Microsoft account, so I'm going to have to find a different editing software. So, uh, if you don't want to miss out on part two, be sure to subscribe and like the video, and most importantly, share. I want everyone to see this theory, to see this genius theory. Everybody needs to see this theory. But anyway, part two will come out eventually. I have no idea how long it's going to take. But yeah, I'm going to end the video here. Goodbye.